Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Corsace Closed semifinals. We have got a good one for today. It is the decaten up against Intercambing, number 6 versus number 8 seeds. And the winner of this match is going to have to go up against Emmerich. So certainly a tough road ahead for the winner, but you have to focus on the match at hand and take it one match at a time. I'm iFlame, and I'm going to be all on my own for the time being. We might get someone else here later, but for now, let's talk about the players as we get into the pick ban. decaten is a player that had a very strong qualifier performance, qualifying as the 6th seed. I think most people would agree in overperformance, but it's had a bit of a rough time since then, having a bit of a rough performance in the round of 16, improving a little bit last week, but I definitely going to need to see a little bit more out of decaten if he wants to stay in this tournament. Keep in mind, this is a loser's bracket match, so the loser of this one is going to be eliminated instantly. On the other side, we've got Intercambing in 8th seed. I did lose to Kriller 6-2 in the first round before beating Window Life in the loser's bracket last week, and had some solid scores. So we are right into bans. DT2 banned out for decaten, unsurprising as Intercambing is very good at the speed, very good at the reading as well. Those are going to be the focuses. We've also seen decaten ban out a ton of readings, so you see Intercambing picking away the Nomad 6. You expect the HD2 to come out as a second band later for decaten. And on the other side, we have got a Hard Rock 3 band for Intercambing, picking the Nomad 6, so opting into the Nomad reading before going into the hidden reading, giving decaten a chance to ban that out. And for those of you who don't know, this is kind of your reading rhythmic, typical Nomad 6 that you tend to see. It is quite reading intensive, and we could see some fairly low accuracies, especially because this is not really decaten's skill set. Very strong pick from Intercambing, and here we go into the Nomad 6. 160 BPM AR9, so a little bit higher AR for this reading pick than you might normally see from a Nomad 6 rather than the very common AR rate, but we already see decaten struggling a little bit, finding some very early misses and dropping a ton of accuracy, already down to 88. And we get into this rhythmic stack section, doesn't catch out either player. Intercambing still going strong and still up at 93% accuracy, but decaten finds yet another miss and is very, very quickly falling behind here, continues to struggle, kind of as we've expected. This is a decently long map as well, so we've had a lot of time to go, and Intercambing just continues to build the combo. Map is pretty consistent in difficulty, to be honest. There are some particularly tricky patterns, I mean, especially right at the end, but you don't really think there's anything particularly crazy that's going to catch out a player like Intercambing. He did find a miss earlier, so combos are even now, but decaten trades it right back, and Intercambing is going to hold on to this lead. 50,000 points doesn't seem like a lot, but on a map like this where the combos, the accuracies are both a lot lower than they would usually be, 50,000 points is a lot to make up. We do still have half the map to go, but decaten is yet to build up a really solid combo and finding yet another break. It's not completely over, but it's not looking good for decaten on Intercambing's first pick. Intercambing has found yet another miss, but the score lead hasn't shrunk one bit. decaten getting mostly 50s, mostly 100s on those stacks. Both players dropped right after that short break. But into the ending, I think there is just too much ground for decaten to make up here, especially with that miss. That is almost certainly going to be a point for Intercambing. Going up 1-0 very early on. Expected for your own first pick, and now decaten has a chance to bring one right back. Looking ahead a little bit towards decaten's potential first pick, Decaten has been really, really solid on some of the hard rocks, and we are now joined by Dio. Welcome to the cast. How's it going?
Hello, doing fantastic. Yeah,
Happy
this
to hear
matchup,
it.
decaten versus Intercambing, I'm sure you've covered it already, but this is sure to be a very good matchup. And we get an early start here on the Nomad 6. A good first point for Intercambing, it seems, on the reading map, just much more comfortable on the lower approach right here.
Yep, I was just saying before you joined, Decaten has the next pick, and so far throughout this tournament has looked really, really good on the hard rocks. Of course, hard rock 3 is banned out, so leaving the hard rock 1 and 2 open. I expect that to be the first one of those two to be the first pick for Decaten, but does have a few other options. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think just generally going into stuff like the Hard Rock 2 is probably a good first pick for Decaten. If he does want to get away from some of the hard rock picks, I feel like on this pool, you maybe run something like the DT3, you maybe run something like one of the Nomad maps, particularly Nomad Alt. Decaten is a very, very good Nomad Alt player. So I think running something like the Hard Rock 2 Nomad 3 or maybe the DT3 if you feel a little more comfortable on that kind of thing is probably where we're going to see him go. And eventually for intercambing, I feel like we're going to dip into that hidden pool, probably next with the hidden 2.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, not something you would necessarily expect going into this tournament, but Intercambing has been really struggling on some of the Nomad 3s, the Nomad 4s, those just kind of standard tech and alt picks so far throughout this tournament. And I feel like while we know he's capable of playing the alts and tech to a generally sufficient level, we just haven't seen it come together so far in the tournament, and that might be something Decaden looks to abuse later on in the pick ban once we get a few maps into the picks. No mod
Yeah.
4. There it is, going straight for the tech map. Not going to opt into the hard rock quite yet. And this is a pretty aim-focused tech pick. Lots of slider aim in this one. A little bit of finger control as well, but certainly not the focus of the map.
Yeah, it's an Azralk map, so a lot of the slider aim as a focus in this one. And I think this is also a pretty good pick for Decaten. Generally, Decaten, I think, a little stronger on alt than on tech. But as you said, Intercambing hasn't looked super good on either of those skill sets through the tournament so far in comparison to the other players. So I feel like going into either of those early on is still a solid strategy. And I think with the first round of bans, Intercambing banning out Hard Rock, yeah, maybe you want to go into the Hard Rock early, but going into stuff like this is also completely fine early on for Decaten. He has had some very, very good performances on tech maps throughout the tournament as well.
Yeah, the Hard Rock is a little bit risky as well because as good as Decaden has been on the Hard Rock, we've seen Intercambing put up some very impressive scores on certain Hard Rock maps, especially going back to the qualifiers. But here we go into the Nomad for Decaden, looking to get a point back on the board. Intercambing looking to push this one to a 2-0 lead with an early breakpoint.
Just a bit of warm up here at first. No trouble for either player during the intro to the map before we get into the real proper difficult sections of this one. A couple of early hundreds, not going to be consequential here at the start unless somebody finds a slider break, but you're really not expecting that until this really gets going here. It does start to ramp up a little bit here, but really once you get past this stream, this is where the map starts to pick up.
Yeah, and this map very spiky into the KI section, so that is where we're going to see the majority of the breaks, but both players holding on so far. Intercambing has dropped a little bit of accuracy, going to give the early advantage over to Decaten, but as long as both players hold, they are still in it. And this is a decently long map as well, still 3/4 of the map to go. And both players hitting that section right before the slowdown.
Neither player finding any drops so far is looking really good. A few more slider ends dropped for Intercambing than for Decaten, but both of them actually slider breaking on the exact same reverse slider as well. Another miss afterwards for Intercambing. Better accuracy, better control over the slider ends early on, giving Decaten a little bit of a lead here, but it's less than 20,000 points, so pretty minuscule in the grand scheme of things, as now Decaten with another slider break gives Intercambing back the combo lead, and we'll see this just kind of switch back and forth as the players drop a couple of slider breaks here and there after that initial break on the buzz slider for both of them. That kind of buzz slider is really hard to hit. You have to effectively snap from the head directly to the middle of the slider as soon as it happens. So very, very tricky there. And unfortunately, neither player getting past that wall in the map. Now into the second half, with the scoreline being 10,000 points or a little bit more, maybe 15,000 points in favor of decaten. Extremely close map and a slider break again for both players going into the back half now.
Yeah, and decaten managed to hold on to the lead just long enough as both of them found a break. That's going to favor decaten massively, and Intercambing finds yet another miss. A quarter of the map to go, but there's another very, very tricky section. This ending is the hardest part of the map by far, but decaten is holding strong, finally finds the miss. Intercambing now the one holding, but so much ground to make up here. Has to continue to build this combo. Still has a quarter of the map left to do so, and 20,000 points to make up.
Yeah, it's a 20,000 point lead, basically off the back of accuracy for decaten. 2% up in AC over Intercambing. And there's another combo drop for Intercambing on the slider break there with the space double. And now I feel like with only a quarter of the map left, you really have to turn it on for Intercambing if you want to take this break point for decaten. It's still looking very, very close here, as no real decisive big combo built up for either player during this map so far. They've been breaking at about the same points over and over again, but the accuracy favors decaten on this map so well. And now with an over 400 combo lead with another break for Intercambing, this one is secured for decaten. He will find the win on his first pick. Nicely done from him, especially in the intro section, building up that accuracy lead during the tamer parts of this map. Being able to carry that lead into the later stages with dropping very few slider ends near the start. I mean, he was ahead 10 or 15 combo by the time they both broke. So it does go to show those early accuracy leads can help out quite a bit here. And yeah, but ahead about 30 100s through the course of the map is decaten. A big part of why he's able to take this win.
Yeah, those kind of traded breaks on those really tricky buzz slider patterns acted as a bit of a combo reset, so the accuracy, the score lead didn't get too out of hand in either direction, but in the end, decaten builds up really nice combo into the ending, has a better accuracy, and we have a match on our hands. It's all tied up 1-1 Intercambing, and now with the next pick, I suspect that's just going to be HD2 something. Decaten has banned out very consistently in the last 2 rounds, hasn't opted to do so this time around. And that's going to leave it wide open for Intercambing, who has been very solid on the rating picks. And there it is,
Yeah.
levitating from Dua Lipa.
Least predictable first round pick from Intercambing here after that Nomad 6. I don't think this is any surprise at all. It's awkward aim largely in this map. You have quite a lot of wide angle jumps throughout the pick in this map that make it extremely difficult to be super consistent on for a lot of players. The reading element itself, though, is not too difficult in this map. So I think this is a more accessible pick for decaten as compared to something like the Nomad 6, where the reading really is that prime focus. This time, it's a little bit of the it's a little bit trickier with the aim and the control on this map for your mechanics versus just the pure reading focus we saw before.
Yeah, there are a very tricky couple of patterns later on in the map that are spaced out at different points, some tricky pentagons, as well as a really tough couple of squares that I expect to catch people out, but players getting caught out already on some of these easier patterns. Decaten and Intercambing have both traded misses, and Decaten finds yet another one. And we're going to see a lot more drops throughout this one, I think. As we see more misses into the harder sections, we're going to see accuracies drop potentially for both players, and we'll see how much an impact that has as they've stayed pretty even for now, but we get into some of the more space linear aim sections, and we've got some of the trickier patterns coming up, and the combos are starting to build. The first miss is going to be very impactful, and decaten finds Intercambing now with a chance to start building up this score lead.
I feel like Intercambing is just the perfect example of the tournament player to hidden player pipeline. When this guy first came on the scene like 4 years ago in Corsace Open 2020 with Osu True Skill, he was just a normal top player, very good at DT, very good at hard rock, and just a lot of really good mechanics, well-rounded player. But now, actually, with that slider break, does finally poke a hole in the theory. But now he's become somebody who's really, really strong in comparison to a lot of players on the AR8 reading, on the AR reading in general, on hidden in general, and it's to the point now where against some players in tournament, his hidden is more of a threat than the hard rock, and even banning out hard rock here against decaten, I think it's just a funny case study of how playing tournaments can change exactly what your focus is in this game, as he continues to dominate this pick. Did find the one break earlier on, but far more breaks over and over again for decaten in this map as compared to Intercambing, with just the one slider break and one miss now.
Yeah, 100,000 points is absolutely massive on this map, and to your point, Theo, Intercambing has a really great skill set for tournaments. I feel like in so many matches, we see one player ban out the low AR reading picks, one player bans out the speed, but Intercambing is very strong at the reading and the speed specifically, and those are such valuable skill sets to have in any tournament. Every team needs reading players, needs speed players, and even in a 1v1 tournament, having other players have to worry about both the reading and the speed against you is really good, as Intercambing just continues to build this lead slowly, still 50 combo ahead, and with a quarter of the map to go, Intercambing should be able to get this second point on the board.
Yeah, so far no major issues for Intercambing on this. Not a bad score from decaten either. Again, this map is a little more accessible than the Nomad 6, but these types of higher star rating mechanics on AR8 with hidden are really, really difficult for anyone to deal with. You see both players breaking here near the end. Classic Xarius map just absolutely pops off near the end of the song. And this is where the song really gets its 6.7 star rating. I mean, most people in chat here probably play 6.7 stars to farm. This is 6.7 stars with AR8 hidden. So it's a really, really tricky map, regardless of how accessible it may seem. And a solid 400k there for Intercambing, up 130,000 or so over decaten on that, just by virtue of, half the miscount and 1.5% better accuracy.
Yep. I feel like as well, this pool has jumped up in difficulty quite a bit compared to the previous two. You have to be very strong on a particular skill set to play a map well. You can no longer just afford to pick skill sets that are generally comfortable, and you have to index a lot more into your specific skill set. And so there is a bit more of a skill cap test as well into the semifinals. And so I do feel like that may advantage Intercambing a bit as we get into the match, but we will see how it plays out, as the decaten does have the next pick, does still have two of the hard rocks open. Something like the Nomad 3 is open as well, so it does have quite a few options, and to be honest, I don't really mind any of them.
Yeah, there are still options for both of these players, of course. I think here, yeah, I was gonna say decaten really wants to pick one of these hard rocks, and it's gonna be the hard rock one over the hard rock two.
You're moving your mic a little bit, Dio. You've switched mics on us, but
I'll fix that. You cover it in the meantime.
I got it under control. This hard rock one, fantastic pick. Having just won the Nomad 4, which is a slider tech pick, this is slider aim hard rock, and decaten has been fantastic on the hard rock, fantastic on the aim, and this being not necessarily similar to the Nomad 4. It's much more focused on slider aim specifically rather than slider tech like we saw earlier. It's similar enough that decaten can feel quite confident. It's CS5 as well, so there is some level of precision. Intercambing has looked on the precision, but decaten a little bit more known for the precision, as this map gets right into it, does not waste any time. We do see a little bit of aim control as well, kind of mixed in there, so you have to be ready for those patterns thrown in with the aim, and it's very easy to find a miss on any one of those space aim control patterns with that increased circle size, as Intercambing has already found the first miss. decaten does trade it back and is now going to be down by about 150, finding yet another miss, but has a 2% accuracy lead, and I think for now that should keep decaten in the driver's seat, as now just going to be waiting on a miss for Intercambing, as the score will slowly go back over in favor of Intercambing, barring any misses. This is a bit of an easier section, and about the halfway point of the map, it gets into a bit of a trickier section. I think that's where we're going to start to see the next set of misses.
And a lot of higher spacing here as well in this part of the map. decaten finding another chain miss is actually pretty devastating here. Intercambing is going to trade though and drop so much accuracy. This section catching both players completely off. Neither of them able to hold any combo during this part of the map, but it's much worse for Intercambing. Drops so much combo and accuracy down now to about a 20k score lead. This is a still a good pick for decaten, but not at all a guaranteed one. Talked about it a little earlier with the tournament player to hidden player pipeline, but Intercambing, when he first started out, was a very, very good Hard Rock player and still well known for it. Another set of chain misses coming through for both players. Intercambing, the second one to drop that set as we get further and further into the aim control with these higher BPM streams. I mean, this is essentially alt patterning at 182 BPM, so this is very, very tricky. And finally, the score lead goes back to decaten.
It is not over. One drop from decaten could flip the score right back over. I believe there's one more tricky pattern into the ending. And both players looking good. decaten should have this one in the bag. And decaten just barely going to be able to hold on to this one. It looked dicey for a bit. Gets the second point. Even things up. You really don't want to drop any of your own picks before the second round of bans. And decaten going to be safe for now. And it does have a ban up next. But the ban should be interesting for decaten. Does have the 2 reading maps now picked for Intercambing. Has already banned out the speed in DT2 finger control pick as well. So we might just see the other speed pick in the Nomad 5 for decaten, which is almost probably the speediest pick in the pool this week.
Yeah, I mean, Nomad 5 and DT2 are both around 255, 260 BPM, so I think pretty comparable, but I do think you're right. He probably wants to ban out that Nomad 5. Intercambing a very, very good DT and speed player, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that banned out, or honestly, the DT1 either. Of course, decaten can play the DT1. It's not like he's bad at DT aim at all. He has lots of very good DT aim scores, but Intercambing is very, very well known for doing a lot of those sorts of plays for the solo leaderboards, as well as being pretty strong on it in tournaments. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that be the ban of choice either. If he's not going to ban out one of those, I am honestly a little unsure exactly what he wants to do. Yeah, and it's going to be the Nomad 5. As for Intercambing, I feel like either you're banning out this Hard Rock 2 or you're banning out something like the Nomad 3 here, just given what the picks have been so far for both players.
Yeah, I feel like I like the Nomad 3 a little bit more just based on this tournament's performances so far. Was number 4 on the Hard Precision pick last week, but does opt to ban out the Hard Rock 2 instead. I think that's a safe bet against decaten, leaving the Nomad 3 open, but does have the next pick. And I like that you mentioned the DT1. This DT1 is a little bit speedier. It is still fairly consistency aim focused, but has a little bit more tapping than you might commonly see in a DT1. And there it is from Intercambing. No time to be wasted. Goes right into that DT1. And while this is something decaten can certainly play, this week's DT1 especially, I would definitely favor Intercambing slightly.
Remember when this used to be Nomad Farm or like Hidden Hard Rock Farm for top players back in 2014 when this came out? We've come a long way. 183 BPM base, so 274.5, 275 BPM basically. AR 9.2 without DT, so AR 10.5 or a little less than AR 10.5. And 3 minutes and 25 seconds as well. This is not your, shorter, 2.5 minute song with DT on. This is a marathon map with DT applied at 8.6 stars almost. So you have to be very, very good at that higher approach rate DT with both the streams and somewhat awkward aim. I mean, this is a map ranked in 2014 before we were getting, a lot of really farm-focused maps, and it's a marathon as well, mapped by Captain and Delis. So this is going to have some relatively awkward aim and some longer streams and bursts in it as well. I think Intercambing, a very good player to try to abuse this sort of skill set versus decaten, who, is good at this in his own right, but this should be a solid pick for Intercambing. We'll see how it works out.
Yeah, decaten has already found the early miss, and there's no crazy difficulty spikes. Obviously, the guys are the toughest sections, but it's going to be pretty consistent throughout most of the map. It is long, as you said, and Intercambing has traded the miss right back. So decaten dropping a lot of hundreds, finds the miss as well now, and Intercambing right back in the lead. Look at the accuracies as well, 5%, 99 versus 94. decaten finds yet another miss, and now Intercambing is up by 40,000 points to a quarter of the map over, and decaten misses again. Needs to find some consistency here, but just having a really rough time with these bursts.
And I mean, it's the speed and the longer streams that are really making this score difference as big as it is right now. 99.4 accuracy for Intercambing on this is really, really good versus the 95 for decaten. I mean, it's still a respectable score, but just not in the same caliber right now as the score from Intercambing. And you can see the difference in comfort on these stream sections into the slider jumps. Another slider break there for decaten. Not even any of the bigger jump sections in this map. We did see one of them earlier with that miss from decaten prior, but even more of these bigger jumps just unfazed is Intercambing at nearly 99.5 accuracy with just the one slider break or one miss so far. I don't remember which one it was, but this is a fantastic score for Intercambing. He is just crushing this map right now.
Yeah, looking absolutely unstoppable so far. Now all the way up to 800 combo. The score lead is astronomical, 180,000 points now, and with only a third of the map to go, decaten, while technically isn't out of it yet, has so much ground to make up, and with that miss, might just be completely out of it now. Even if we see a miss from Intercambing, is there not enough map left to make up that 900 combo? Okay, Intercambing misses.
Bad timing.
But I think Intercambing's pretty safe on this one, unless we see a complete meltdown.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's 200,000 score in favor of Intercambing. I don't think that miss matters at all. He's still above 99 accuracy versus the mid 96 ac for decaten here. You know, what do you do, right? You're against somebody who is going to be able to get 700K on a marathon map DT with streams and bursts and slider jumps, awkward aims, super high spacing jumps at 8.6 stars. Like, this is a very, very hard score to beat, even for a lot of the players in this tournament. This is something that Intercambing is just really good at.
Yeah, and I think if you're decaten, what you do is you win your own picks.
Oh.
Even if you don't win any of Intercambing picks, it doesn't matter. Get yourself the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
It's a tech tiebreaker. Probably favors decaten a little bit. And so, well, it seems obvious this match more so than others. Feels very important to win their own picks, make it a tiebreaker. If you are decaten, I think if you give up the break point, it's very tough to find that break point back. So we'll see how this one plays out as Intercambing up by 1 once again. Players continue to trade picks. Decaten with the pick up next. Of course, that Hard Rock pool has been banned out. Could look towards the Nomad 3 or may look somewhere else entirely.
Yeah, I think just with what's left in the pool, there are still a couple of good options here for Intercambing, or for decaten, excuse me. You do still have the Nomad 3, you do still have the DT3. Outside of those, I feel like a lot of these picks are very, very much a toss-up between these two players. So I'm wondering where he's going to want to go later on into this pool. We do still have the hidden 1 and hidden 3 available, and yeah, decaten's not a fantastic hidden player, but those maps are also AR 9.8 and AR 9.7 respectively. So it's not like the hidden is going to be too much added difficulty in terms of the reading strain, which is really what tends to be the problem for a lot of players that aren't super well versed in hidden. So those, I think, a little more accessible than some of the other hidden picks that we've had in the tournament so far. But for now, DT3, Nomad 3 is still open. We're going to see DT3 instead.
Yeah, this is going to be the alt DT pick, so honestly somewhat comparable to the Nomad 3 stylistically, but of course, much higher AR, 444 BPM alt, so really just going to be 222. And this one is another long map. DT1, actually the shortest map in the DT pool, believe it or not. This one is just over 3.5 minutes, and it really is going to be another consistency test. I do think this DT pick favors a decaten much more than the previous one, so we should see a much closer map this time around. We know Intercambing has struggled with the alt generally, but the GT alt feels to me like it favors Intercambing a little bit more, as both players drop some early accuracy, but should recover, as I don't expect us to see any early misses. Never mind, decaten has found an early miss, but it shouldn't matter too much, as we're about to get into the KI, the first tricky section of this pick. And even though it's not necessarily higher BPM than your standard alt pick, because of the AR, it feels so much faster to play, and decaten has found yet another miss, not finding the start you'd want on your own DT3 pick. Intercambing looking strong, both players struggling a little bit on accuracy, and now the pressure is on Intercambing to hold on to this combo and not allow decaten back into this match.
Yeah, this is now looking a little bit tenuous, but you can always find breaks later on, and there's one for Intercambing. Decaten now with the combo lead once again. Accuracy pretty similar for both players, so A lot of this is just going to be combo lead versus in some of the other maps we've seen a pretty substantial accuracy lead, usually for Intercambing, honestly, in a lot of the picks so far, but sometimes for decaten as well, like on the Hard Rock 1, and now on this pick as well, with Intercambing dropping down to 92% accuracy, a full 2% below decaten at the time. Does drop a little bit himself, but neither player really able to hold on to a huge amount of combo, so it's going to make that accuracy all the more important, as we do see another combo break for decaten during the TI time. The slider breaks during these sections of the map are so difficult to deal with, and now it's just break after break for both of these players. A slight score lead for decaten at the first break here, a third of the way in, only 14,000 score up, so a very tenuous lead at this point for decaten.
Yep, accuracy has gone over in favor of decaten as well now, and there's so much of the map to go, like you mentioned. We're not even at the halfway mark, and while the combo lead is small, that's all decaten needs, assuming they both miss at similar points. This next KI section in the past the second half of this map is very tricky. I'd say a little bit harder. They both trade misses. Decaten is going to be very okay with that. He's just built up a 20,000 score lead, but decaten finds another big miss, dropping a ton of accuracy, allowing Intercambing to catch up as decaten continues to struggle on this section. And now Intercambing is only down by 10,000. decaten really struggling here. The score is going to flip back over any second as things are starting to look dire. But lots of time into the last quarter of this map for decaten to make a comeback, because now it's Intercambing finding the miss. decaten holds onto the lead, but here we go into the last PI.
And he's just ahead by a sliver going into this last part of the map, and there goes the score lead back to Intercambing, the score flickering back and forth as the combo now in the favor of Intercambing, the accuracy evened up by him as well, and it's just on a knife's edge here at this moment. And there's another break, and a couple of hundreds dropped as well for Intercambing. The score lead back over to decaten, both of them breaking on pretty much the same pattern there. It is less than 1,000 score apart right now, I think, as both players just holding as much as they can with this last quarter of the map. Another relatively slow section. You say relatively slow because it's still 222 BPM even during these parts of the map. And this is about as close as it's going to get between these two players, with the score continuing to just flicker back and forth as they both hold on to their combo as much as possible into the last KI time, the last difficult section of the map. This is going to decide it all. If they both break at the same time, we can see the same level of close gameplay into the very end of the map. But there's Intercambing with the first drop. decaten still holding on to the combo. He misses right afterwards, and it's still less than a 10,000 score lead for decaten. Intercambing going to find another couple of breaks here near the end and extend that score lead a little bit closer to 10K for decaten, but there's still a little bit of map left. There's still difficult parts of the song left, and if we see a chain miss for either player, it could decide things. There's another miss for decaten. Combo for Intercambing. Is there enough time? He can maybe spin to win, but I think that's still the win for decaten, just barely holding on to the win at the end of the map. A little less than 10,000 points to decide it there, and that earlier break for Intercambing doing all the work needed to give that point for decaten, able to hold on when it mattered most.
decaten holds on for about 5 seconds longer, builds up that extra 100 combo when the combos were starting to get big, and that is all it takes on this one. Yet again, it is 3-3, and we have got a best of 5 on our hands. Intercambing with the next pick, and that is a relief for decaten. You really don't want to give up a breakpoint against Intercambing, and we do now see that is able to win these DT picks, but the DT pool has been entirely picked or banned, so that's no longer going to be an option. Intercambing does still have some strong picks in the hidden. Now, you mentioned this earlier, Dio, but the hidden 1 and hidden 3 scores for both of these players were actually very comparable last week. So while decaten is not necessarily a hidden player, we've seen that decaten can put up good enough scores to keep up. I'm curious if that's still the case now that the pools are getting quite a bit harder, but we can certainly see some close hidden picks. I'm very curious to see if Intercambing does want to play the hidden 3. A little bit more skeptical about the hidden 1 because it is so aim focused.
I think one thing to keep in mind for this hidden pool in particular is the differences between this week's and last week's pool. Hidden one last week was pretty much pure aim. Hidden one this week is a lot more kind of tech, stream, speed, a little bit of a mixed skill set pool here for the hidden one this time around. It is going to be that hidden one for Intercambing regardless. I almost kind of think that the pure aim hidden one last week is a little better for Intercambing, but I mean, both players running out of picks here. I don't think either of them really want to gamble on the Nomad 1, Nomad 2 at the top of the pool. So I feel like a lot of the picks that we see are going to be Nomad 3 or below for the rest of this match, as those pure mechanics picks, I think a complete toss-up between these two. Both of them should be relatively comfortable on the flow aim for a Nomad 2 along with that stamina, and on the pure jump aim in that Nomad 1 without the speed requirement that we saw in DT1 that favored it so much toward Intercambing. And here, a little bit of slider aim, a little bit of added difficulty from some unconventional patterning in this map. Let's see how both players do on this one. It's the 4th pick, I believe, for Intercambing.
It is, and this is a very short map as well, so we're not going to see combos nearly as big. It's going to be a lot less about the consistency and more who can hold on through those really tricky sections. We see decaten falling a little bit behind in accuracy early on, but as we get into the build-up, this is where the pressure starts to build, and this is where we start to expect to see some misses. As we get into a tough aim section, decaten finds a miss on, honestly, not much. Some overlapping back and forth jumps, and here we go into a heavier aim control section. Intercambing has followed it up with a miss of his own. decaten trades it back, and so Intercambing is going to be able to hold on to the lead as decaten finds a massive accuracy drop. Intercambing looking great on 99.5 still, and a slight combo advantage. Intercambing should be feeling quite comfortable going into the second half of this map.
This is one of those maps where I almost wish that the player who picked it could see what the other player is breaking on, because most of these breaks for decaten have been on the awkward aim sections, both of them breaking there on the absolute menace cross-screen jumps there in the last third of the map. Starting us off now with another couple of these higher spacing triples and slider aim portions of the map. Neither player to drop so far on these sections, but as I was saying before, most of the misses for decaten all on those linear wide angle jump sections. So maybe if you're intercambing, if you can actually see that, maybe you pick into the Nomad 1 later, but for now, it's just traded misses back and forth by both players. Another miss there for decaten on some of the flow aim, the longer streams, and the sliders finally catching off intercambing, but ahead through the whole map, ahead at the end is intercambing, even by a relatively close margin, about 30,000 points there. Still looked to be the winner throughout basically the entire map, just that tiny bit more consistent throughout the entire pick, and it does end up with him going up 4-3, winning his own pick.
Yeah, it really did feel like it came down to those earlier misses from decaten on the easier section of the map. Otherwise, they're pretty consistently trading misses back and forth, but Intercambing gets the 30,000 points he needs to once again win his own pick. decaten now has the next pick, and we've yet to see a breakpoint given up from either side despite some incredibly close maps. And it does feel like decaten has a few more clear picks than Intercambing at this point. Did win on the DT3, incredibly close one. Does still have the Nomad 3. I think the Hidden 3 would be very risky. But other than that, it's really just that Nomad 1, Nomad 2 that you mentioned earlier that neither player has really played or wanted to play so far in this tournament. Those feel a little bit more coin flippy, so I'm not sure if they want to pick those until they absolutely have to.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to see one of them eventually if we keep trading points back and forth like this. There's 4 maps open and 3 picks remaining in total. It's going to be the Hidden 3 for decaten, as you say. Flow aim, alt aim control focused map here with Tatakai by Fujisawa Yoshiaki. I'm interested to see who actually wins this one. It is, and skill set wise, I think you favor decaten. Mod wise, you favor intercambing. So I feel like this is just going to be a very close map between these two.
I completely agree. I think decaten has shown to be stronger on those alt-aim control focus picks so far, but that hidden modifier on top kind of throws a wrench into the map that makes it a little bit less clear who you would favor on a pick like this. But this one is another short one, just under 2 minutes long, and there are some very tricky aim control patterns that are very easy to miss on with the hidden. We already see decaten with an early miss on the, once again, easier section of the map, and it's going to give Intercambing the early lead, as we've seen the last couple maps. And yet again, decaten on the back foot has a lot of time to recover once we get into these trickier sections.
And so far, oh, actually a slider break there. It looked like under-aimed the start of that slider for Intercambing, so combo lead back the way of decaten now. 1/6 burst, not tripping anyone up during this section of the map. A lot of the linear flow aim and snap aim also kind of difficult, but there's another side break for decaten, and it's combo lead back to Intercambing once again. Both players just trading these misses back and forth as another set of misses come through for both of them at pretty much the same point. Act drops for both as well, now both down around 94%, and this again is very, very close between these two players. We see more just ridiculously close gameplay halfway through, and we're not even 5,000 points apart between the two of them. Combo ever so slightly in the favor of decaten, accuracy ever so slightly in the favor of Intercambing before that point. Now it's about tied up between the two of them, as we just see both of them comboing the exact same portions of the map, score completely even between the two of them. And I think a lot of this map is going to come down to whoever breaks first. Whoever loses this combo first is pretty much doomed to lose this pick. Can they both hold on and make it as close as possible? No, Intercambing is going to find the drop, does find a miss on the slider jump section, and decaten still holding on into the end of the map, looking very, very good here in the back half of the map, and does finally find the drop, but it's a 50,000 score lead based off that extra combo. And as you said, iFlame, yeah, early lead for Intercambing, early combo break for decaten, but so much time to make it up, and time well spent for decaten.
decaten does it again. That is such an impressive ending and such a great job recovering the accuracy into the middle half of this map. We saw decaten fall behind nearly 2% into the start, but by the end of the map, they're back even again, and I feel like it's so tricky to recover that much accuracy when the map gets harder into the ending. And we're up to a best of 3 now. We have had 4 picks from each player. We have had players winning their own picks 8 times out of 8. And each player has one more chance to get a break point to avoid going to tiebreaker. And Intercambing, before that, we might have speculated a hidden 3 pick, and now we've got Nomads 1, 2, and 3 left open. None of them feel amazing for Intercambing. I mean, if you had to go with one, I would guess the Nomad 2. Intercambing has been a great tapping player, and there it is, easy breezy. This is going to be our stream focus pick, 210 BPM, and I'd say this is much more flow aim intensive rather than a stamina focused stream pick, which may help out decaten a little bit, but I think it's still slightly favored towards Intercambing.
I mean, when you get to 210 BPM, even if they're mostly flow aim, when it's just consecutive bursts over and over and over again, like in this map, there is still a stamina component there, whether it's just death streams or whether you have, 25 note bursts linked together with just sliders in between them and a couple jumps here and there. There's going to be a drain on your stamina at some point. So I have to agree. I think this is a little bit more favored toward Intercambing just because of that. But this is absolutely a breakpointable map for decaten. And, when we were down to the last 3 maps in the pool, I feel like everything is going to be relatively breakpointable unless one of these players saves a very strong pick for last, which is not what happened here. So this is going to be an interesting one, to say the least. I'm expecting pretty high scores from both of them on this, as this is one of the most straightforward picks in the pool, save for the Discord sliders.
Yeah, fair bit of finger control in this one as well, as we do get some doubles as well as triples later on in the map. And I think this is the kind of map, it is fairly short, but we could see some decently high combos on it. There's a lot of combo to be made with how consistent the streams are. And the map doesn't really let up much. You really don't get much of a break. And we do start to get into some longer streams here. And this is where we're going to have to watch the accuracies, see if any players start to lose stamina. decaten finds the first big miss as Intercambing still going strong up at 600 combo. 99 accuracy as well. And decaten is far behind now. We've seen decaten make the comeback before, though. Can decaten do it again? Intercambing finds hundreds on that entire stream, but holds on to the combo, and that's all you need, really.
Still holding on to the full combo for Intercambing, is down in accuracy, but what does it matter when you're FCing halfway through the map, still holding the FC here on Nomad 2, and looking very, very good for this final pick to work out. How long can he hold on to it is the question. When do the nerves start to play a factor? We get through the second set of Discord sliders there, and still the FC for Intercambing. We're into kind of the more tech-focused section now. A little bit more slider aim, a little bit less on the stamina and flow aim, as both players hitting this section with a Blom. No trouble. Actually, a miss for Intercambing there. Does find it's a slight under aim, and now a big combo lead for decaten. 720 combo up on Intercambing, and climbing with another break for Intercambing to come through. Multiple misses there during the techier section of the map, and it's that slight spec into the tech that helps out decaten, but he does find a break right afterwards, and now it's just a huge score lead for Intercambing. That big high spacing section right after the tech part, catching both players, resetting the combos entirely, and allowing Intercambing to keep a 90,000 score lead built up through the first half of the map. And this one is over. Nicely done for Intercambing on the first half. Secures nearly, or I think slightly above a 1,000 combo and 560k to his name to bring himself to match point.
Intercambing, very nice job to guarantee himself, at the very least, a tiebreaker. But it all comes down to this last pick from decaten. The pool is really dwindling here. These Corsace Closed pools really only have as many maps as are needed to play a match. We've got the Nomad 1, we've got the Nomad 3. Flip a coin and take your pick for decaten. I mean, we've been talking about the Nomad 3 all match, but decaten has not picked it yet. It may indicate that decaten is just not comfortable on this specific Nomad 3 for whatever reason. But now when you're down to the last two picks, you've got to decide between two maps, probably neither of which you particularly wanted to pick. And yet here you are. I still think it has to be the Nomad 3, but I do think decaten would be ever so slightly favored on something like a Nomad 1 as well, so I honestly don't mind either pick. It is also a very long Nomad 1, so it would really come down to that consistency. And we have seen that slightly favored decaten, I feel like, so far in this match, where he's built up the combos just a little bit more through some of those tricky patterns and brought it back towards the ending of certain maps. And it is the Nomad 1. Going for aim. How are we feeling, Dio?
I mean, I feel like this is just as much of a toss-up as you're going to get, right? You've seen the DT1 and Hidden 1 be wins for Intercambing. The Hard Rock 1, yeah, is a win for decaten, but that's not an aim map. So the two aim maps we've seen so far in this match have been wins for Intercambing. And as I was talking about on the Hidden 1, some of the, higher spacing linear jumps in that Hidden 1 were where decaten was breaking and Intercambing was holding. That was a big part of the reason why he was able to win that pick. So I almost would have said the opposite, that maybe the Nomad 3 is better. You have wins on the Nomad 3, stuff like the DT3 as well. So some of the flow aim and aim control in this match going the way of decaten throughout. And I think it just goes to show you can look at this match through either lens and potentially have the players agree with you here. We'll see whether this pick works out for decaten in the end. Certainly some of the consistency on longer maps has benefited decaten, as you said, especially with many times decaten finding breaks at the beginning, but Intercambing finding more breaks near the end. Decaten able to hold on to combo and bring back wins because of that from a deficit. This time around, it's actually going to be Intercambing finding the breaks early on some of the just higher spacing jump aim. So decaten off to an early lead. A good start for him on his final pick. This one's for all the marbles. This is the loser's bracket. If you lose here, you are out of the tournament. Intercambing looking to knock decaten out with a break point and advance into the top 8 of the tournament without a tiebreaker. Decaten looking to force that tiebreaker and stay in for one more map.
All that remains now is to see whether or not decaten can hold and bring us to one final map, the tiebreaker. And we've got a lot of map left to go. And both players holding through that big jump section, and this is a relatively consistent map. I wouldn't say any of the key eyes are particularly more difficult than any of the others, but it is fairly spiky in the sense that there are decent breaks in between each key eye, gives you a chance to rest, but it is still just decaten holding on to that 200 combo advantage. Accuracy shouldn't play a massive role in this one. The map is very comfortable to hack, and back into this O section, both players holding strong. The next miss is going to be crucial one way or the other unless we see a big trade, but nobody is missing on these jumps.
Both players just looking so good on this entire key eye time, neither one having any trouble during the section. And I mean, this map doesn't really change all that much, even during the sections where in ranked map sets of the song, you would get streams. You just see there the buzz sliders all the time. So no real major tapping strain at all on this map. There's some triples here and there, maybe some 5-note bursts here and there, but very, very little tapping strain, as instead of the streams, you just get slider jumps instead, or buzz sliders, and this just keeps it completely even between the two players. Slightly higher AC for Intercambing, higher combo, of course, still on the FC for decaten, but the reverse choke intact and the recovery there for Intercambing. So this is, once again, extremely close between these two players. Somebody else said it earlier in chat, but this is, I think, one of the closest mirror matchups we're going to get this weekend. This is such a ridiculously close matchup, coming down to the last pick for decaten, whether we go to tiebreaker or not. And so far, it's looking good, but that could change at any moment. This Ki time still going strong for both players. I think we get into the bridge after this, if I'm not mistaken.
Got the bridge, and then towards the end, we've got the hardest Ki of the map, but the combos are absolutely massive at this point. If we see a break from decaten, the score could flip back over instantly. Both players nailing the squares, and we have got a pure aim in this bridge. Both players still holding strong, though. Buzz sliders shouldn't catch anyone out, as 1.3k the combo for Intercambing now. decaten still ahead by 200. And at this point, it could very well just come down to this final Ki that is absolutely brutal, as both players are looking so strong on this map, so consistent, so comfortable. Look at the accuracy for both of them. Here we go into the next Ki.
Neither of them dropping on any of the triples in this section so far. A couple more 5-note bursts here with some high spacing, and the back and forth 1-2s catch off Intercambing. That's going to be the map. decaten still holding the full combo. It's that one diff spike right at the end of the bridge that decides it all, and we will be going to tiebreaker in this match. As long as there's not a massive fumble from decaten immediately after this break is over, we should be going to tiebreaker here, and a little bit of a slow section to let the nerves build up or calm down, depending on what kind of player you are. But that should be it. 500k crested now for decaten, surely in just a moment. And there it is. Intercambing on less than 100 combo here. That'll be it. Intercambing put up a very, very good fight in this map, but decaten still full comboing 3/4 of the way into this, does finally find a drop, but not before accruing an almost 100,000 score lead here. I don't think there should be enough combo left in this for Intercambing to come back. Even if there is, it'll be extremely close at the end of the map, so very likely to be the tiebreaker. We'll have to see how the ending turns out. Again, if there's a massive fumble from decaten, if we see chain misses or multiple act drops from decaten, this could still go the way of Intercambing. It's going to end up close if we see any of those, but the score is still growing for decaten, and the accuracy still good for him as well, up above that 99, right alongside Intercambing. And the question is just, can you not fumble the bag? Because that's the only way you lose this map for decaten.
Yeah, with how few bursts are left in the map, the combo required, it just isn't there for Intercambing. I think it would take a disconnect at this point, and I think it is safe to say that we are going to tiebreak. We're just going to be our first tiebreaker of the weekend. Seed 6, Seed 8, decaten up against Intercambing, and we have had so many close matches today. We'll hope for another in tiebreaker, as both players not having a good time with this ending. These jumps are massive. It is just 200 BPM cross-screen jumps. And let's talk about the tiebreaker for a moment. I'd say the tiebreaker pretty slider tech focused, and so far we've seen decaten do a fair bit better on quite a few of those tech picks, the slider tech picks, especially looking back to something like that Nomad 4, of course, can take mods on the tiebreaker if you so choose, but I don't think we're going to see either player opting into a mod on this one.
No, probably not. I mean, this tiebreaker, it's definitely got some of that slider tech as you're talking about, but at 252 BPM, with variable beat snap divisors and changing tempos, different red lines in this map, and 8.3 stars. This is something that can honestly go either way. Yeah, you have the slider attack aspect favoring decaten. You have the speed aspect favoring intercambing. The finger control aspect has been kind of even for both of these players throughout the match so far. So I think a lot of exactly how this match is going to end comes down to how well the players can perform on the day on this tiebreaker, because on paper, I think there's aspects of this map that favor both of the players. So being able to convert on that and be consistent enough at the aspects you struggle with in order to get that bigger combo or higher accuracy is going to be really important. I think you favor intercambing a little bit on the accuracy with how high BPM this is, but maybe decaten a little bit on some of the sliders for that combo later on into the map.
Yeah, and I suspect what it very well could come down to is whether or not decaten can hold on through those bursts, not necessarily in terms of accuracy, but just the combo. Even if you're, 3-4% accuracy down on a map like this, there's so much combo that as long as you're not down by 7-8%, it shouldn't make too much of a difference as long as you can hold on to that combo advantage. And that'll be the big question mark. If we see decaten starting to struggle with some of those bursts being 250 BPM, I think the map could go very quickly in Intercambing's favor. But I believe we are going to take a quick pause before we get into the tiebreaker, but I expect we'll be getting to the tiebreaker in 30 seconds to a minute.
One other thing to note, I mean, this is a 7-minute long map, so there is quite a lot of time for combo to build, accuracy to drop or build up, and for the players to get accustomed to the mapping style. So if you have been a little bit more consistent throughout the match so far, maybe going into this tiebreaker, you're favored a little bit. And in this match so far, it seems like that's been decaten, but I mean, these players have just been trading their picks back and forth. Honestly, I don't think there's any clear way to predict this tiebreaker. So I'm just excited to see what we get here on the final map of the match. Intercambing versus decaten. Into the tiebreaker we go, and an early miss for intercambing on some of the jumps, traded right back by decaten on the 1/3 streams right afterwards. And this faster pace in this map can make for some really devastating sections. 252 BPM, even the 1/3 are like 190 BPM streams or so. Like the spacing on these 1/3 can be really, really devious in this sort of a map. So trying to balance that among everything else going on can be really, really difficult for any player.
Very tough, and there are so many kind of changes stylistically in this map, right? You have your more aim focused sections, you have your aim control sections, you have your slider tech sections, and you have to be ready for all of them. We've seen Intercambing drop a ton of accuracy at the start, so it's actually decaten who is in the lead early on. Combo is going to remain even as neither player has missed, but we haven't really seen much of that speed that we were a little bit worried about for decaten, so that might be the first big question mark posed for both of these players. And it is Intercambing who finds the first big miss. 500 combo for decaten is not going to be massive on a map this long, but it will be a pretty nice score lead that is going to let decaten feel a little bit more comfortable, especially going into this slow free combo section. Decaten can just push this score lead ever so slightly up to 15,000 points now. And if decaten can get this combo up to the 1K, 1.2K mark, it could turn into a pretty sizable lead very quickly.
Definitely could, but right now, decaten is just crushing this section, and another miss for Intercambing, and that score lead that you talked about, iFlame, might not be too far off now. Intercambing just feeling much more uncomfortable on this map, but there goes decaten's combo as well. The only problem is that Intercambing is missing at the exact same points as decaten in addition to other spots, plus the accuracy lead, 3% up now for decaten on this map, and Intercambing just not looking comfortable on this pick whatsoever. So this is potentially a really, really big hurdle to climb over for Intercambing, whether he can adjust to this map, get the accuracy up where it needs to be, find a big combo somewhere in this tiebreaker, because he's really going to need it at this point. Yeah, 40,000 points doesn't sound like a lot, but you realize the best score in the map so far is only 110K, and we are a third of the way in, and suddenly 40,000 points seems like quite a big margin of difference.
It does, and on a map this long, 3% accuracy is not necessarily the end of the world, but you have to make up for it with a combo advantage of some sort, and so far Intercambing has not been able to find it, even now down by 50 combo and just has not found any avenues back into this one, has traded misses with decaten, and we need to see both another miss from decaten, and we need to see Intercambing now approaching that 1k combo mark. Does hit those bursts, but decaten does as well, so no advantage gained, and Intercambing finds another miss. You cannot afford to miss on those slower sliders, and now decaten is just off to the races. We are up to over 50,000 points. Accuracy continues to go in favor of decaten, 4% now, and this is going to be really tough for Intercambing to come back from.
Yeah, decaten will find another miss, but now the score lead grown to over 50,000 points, and Intercambing still under 100k, just barely, means the 50k, 60k score lead, like what decaten has right now, is a massive amount of your own score. It's very tough to come back when your opponent has, half your score or more on you, and this combo, the inconsistency in the ability to get any big combo for Intercambing is just devastating in this map, with a 4% accuracy lead for decaten, just looking so much more polished on this map and so much more comfortable on the tiebreaker. Even in some of the speedier portions, is just not having any big troubles whatsoever with these bursts or 1/3 or any of the slider sections as well. And Intercambing now finally does have some combo, but once again they break at the same point, and that just favors the player with better accuracy. decaten still holding on to the score lead, still extending it as well. These longer jump chains catching Intercambing off as well, and finding more and more combo drops. Both of them dropping once again in that section, but again, if they're both dropping, it's fine for decaten. He's up 4% accuracy. He doesn't need to find these big combos. If you're Intercambing, you need to find a combo through the entire ending section of this map and pray for many, many breaks from decaten. And right now, that's just not looking probable at all for Intercambing, who has really struggled to put up a huge combo throughout this map. decaten, hasn't had a massive combo at any point, has never broached 1,000 combo, but it just doesn't matter because he doesn't need to.
The ending is so tricky as well, and the Intercambing is going to absolutely need to nail it if he wants any hope, but has found the miss. Yes, it's traded back by decaten, but you've mentioned already how that does not help Intercambing whatsoever. Intercambing pretty much needs to nail the rest of the map, and so far that has not been the case. Drops a ton of misses, ton of accuracy on the stream, and things, Dio, are falling apart for Intercambing. They are looking more and more dire as the map goes on, and this one just might be over as the score lead broaches 100,000 points in favor of decaten, and I think we might have a winner.
I think the winner's decided. We're near 100,000 score lead for decaten, as you said, and Intercambing on no combo to boot. Still down, even more accuracy at this point. Also, nearly 5% act now in the lead for decaten, who's managed to pull it off. This was a really, really back and forth, super close match. Picks traded back and forth on every single pick for both players. It went the distance, not because of a chain of breakpoints or any crazy sort of shenanigans with FCs versus really bad scores. I think the biggest score lead we saw all match was not even 200,000 between these two players. No, the biggest score lead that we saw in this entire match was a little more than 160k in favor of Intercambing on the DT1. That was the most one-sided score lead we have had all match. It just goes to show how close this entire match has been, how close every single pick was for both of these players. Yeah, in some cases, like on the Nomad 6, very one-sided to start things off. But especially near the end of the match, after the second round of bans, every single pick just felt like it could go either way. There were tons of picks where Intercambing had the lead and decaten brought it back, and tons of picks where it was just extremely close throughout the entire map. And it's been a fantastic match, but ultimately at the end of it, with the 96% accuracy to his name and a massive 140,000 score lead, nearly double score for Intercambing, is decaten, taking the match 6-5 and advancing on to face Emrek for top 6 in about 2 hours. Very well played from both players.
Yeah, decaten has played very well to take this one in tiebreaker, but has an absolute Goliath of a task ahead. Emrek 7th seed, but has not been playing like it so far in this tournament, has put up some very impressive scores, sweeping Zudinator 6-0 in the first round of losers bracket. So like you mentioned, Emrek versus decaten, 2 hours from now. Intercambing, unfortunately, despite a great match, has been eliminated from Corsace Closed 2024. And a shout out to our sponsors as well. Exclamation mark sponsors in the chat. Momokai, use code Corsace for, I believe, 10% off. But I think that is going to be it for us. We will be back at 2 UTC with decaten versus Emmerich on this very same pool. So we hope to see you back there. Anything else you had, Dio?
That's going to be it. Congratulations to decaten on the win. Thank you to Intercambing for playing. Did make top 8 as his qualifiers seeding suggests, but will find his end here. So thank you all for watching. Good luck to decaten versus Emrek later on. We will see you all in about 2 hours.
Thank you all for watching. Take care.